We're building a property portfolio to $150,000 of passive income. In the past 6 months, we've purchased 4 properties, and the value of the portfolio is at just under $3 million. The cash that we're getting into the portfolio is about $139,000 of annual rent. Now, there are expenses. There are things that aren't so great in this property portfolio that we have to deal with, but we are there. We're going to share absolutely everything with you. And this session is with Jeff and I. Jeff and I co-founded Australia's largest property investment community, Oz Property Investors. And we decided, hey, what the hell are we doing? Why don't we create a portfolio? We say we can build these portfolios to $150,000 of passive income. Why don't we just do it in public and share all the numbers? That's exactly what this session is. We just settled yesterday on our 4th property, and we're going to unpack it in detail. Not only that, we're going to go through the frameworks of how we decide what type of property that we're going to get and break it down into simple steps so that you can go out there and do this for yourself. You can achieve an incredible portfolio if you take the time, energy, and effort to do it. Property investing is not all sunshine and rainbows, but this project is a renovation deal. So we are buying it for $530,000. RP Data has it valued at $605,000. So if you want us to unpack how that works, stay tuned, and we were going to dive deep into the session. We also unpack more into detail about the supply and demand macroeconomics of an area in Victoria and why we've purchased 3 properties out of the 4 in the Victorian market, but also our Townsville property. How has that performed? It's actually made, don't want to spoil it, it's made $60,000 in under 6 months. So if you want to kind of get involved with any of that stuff, tune into the session. Let's go. Have fun. For the people that do not know, it doesn't go there. Yeah. So we created the Oz Property Portfolio. We started it in June 2024. We have acquired 3 properties so far. This is a bit more of a catch up for the people that don't know. We purchased a 3 to 4 bedroom conversion. We paid in Melbourne, right? West Melbourne, west of Melbourne. And we paid $606,000. We contributed $120,000. We spent $20,000. To be honest, that renovation is probably around that $25,000, $26,000 now. Rental income was going to be $19,000. And that property is now valued after all of the renovations at $660,000. That's just property number 1. This is because what we're doing is we're doing a bit of a fast lane approach where we're aggressively adding value to our property portfolio. Now, if we bought this property, like I was chatting with a client just today. We bought a property for him in this exact same suburb. And I was like, hey, mate, congratulations on the settlement. This is awesome. And I'm like, actually, let's check what RP Data has to say about this. And we paid I think it was $580,000 for it, and RP Data had it at $615,000. So, it's those kind of things that move the needle a little bit for you. Property number 2. This is a property that we have in Townsville. This is a very hot market. Jeff, I think, has got some thoughts on this market himself that we're going to chat to a little bit later on in the show. But this property is a corner block on a large plot of land. I think it's about 800 odd square meters. It previously has the ability to split it down the middle 1 into 2. So we paid $435,000 for this. RP Data and Domain have this property listed because we're in a hot market. We have a tight supply and high demand, which is what signifies a hot market. We are now at $495,000. Instant equity by just buying and holding. And this is actually one of the things that I want to kind of mention, right? We're doing it very aggressively. We have a very short time window to achieve these goals. So we need to push and do these renovations, do these value adds and stuff like that. But just letting you know, this middle one, it has frozen equity. It's future value add inside of that. And it grew organically because we bought in the right property, in the right market, at the right time, at the right price. So you don't need to do these value add things. It's just, it helps accelerate things. This has the potential for granny flat or subdivision. Just one note that I think sometimes gets confusing for people is if if you've got the opportunity to subdivide a property or put a granny flat on it, always go down with the subdivision route. Don't just put a granny flat on it. Like, just pay the extra and get it subdivided and fully split, because that's going to create more value. If it can't be subdivided and it can have a granny flat, then always put a granny flat. Well, not always, but have a granny flat as the option. Yeah, thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I love it, and I think that 495, or 490, whatever it was, it got valued at, is very conservative, because looking and we'll actually, if people are interested, if we have time, we will talk to that Townsville market and just what some of the data is looking like up there, in terms of, there won't be as deep as the first deep dive will do, but no, I think that you could conservatively sell it for even sort of low fives. So 495, I feel, is very conservative, and banks are traditionally going to be quite conservative as well. So I love a value add. I love development. So I think it is a cracker for sure.
Nice. The third and final, do you want to talk to this one, or do you want me to go through it?
Yeah. I love Geelong, and so many people have asked about Geelong in the thing. They're like, I think there was 5 or 6 or 7. So this one is one that we saw, and it was in a more affluent part of Geelong. And yeah, it sort of has a, what do you got? 4 by 2, is it, or 4 by? Remind me
what is it? It's one. I think it's. Oh, I don't even.
I think it might. I think it might actually be 1 by 1 and 4 by 2. Don't.
Yeah, no, it's 1 2-bedroom and 3 1-bedrooms to equal 4 units in total.
Yeah,
I think. Shit.
But anyway, because that's right. Yeah, free
doesn't matter. It's on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's on a spreadsheet. So that one, there was a comparable down the road that sold in a similar area for 935, I think, and that had 1 less unit in it. So you're saying, so that 1 unit is probably around that sort of 2 to 250. So we're saying this one that you picked up for we picked up for 1.05. I think 1.2 most days of the week, and that has you can actually strata tile those as well down the track. So there is plenty of opportunities there. So yeah, the numbers are looking good.
Mate, so far the portfolio is looking cracking. The subdivision potential, if we do the strata subdivide, it will increase the value by like $500,000. The problem is it's going to eat into our cash flow. So it's not something that we're going to be doing right now. So that's just a question that pops into my head if I'm thinking about this. Overall portfolio uplift in 6 months, $299,000 estimated. Now, if we sold everything, we probably wouldn't bloody have any of this money, right? Like this is a long-term investment for us, but it's good to see we're headed in the right direction. If we ended up selling everything, we're not losing. We're not in the red. We're in the green. This is just more of like a concept overview of how to think about property investing this is more for not even the beginners, right? It's just for everybody. So what Jeff was talking about was level 0, right? He's like, you need to get your finances sorted. You need to understand who you are, where you're looking to go, how you're going to get there. You need to kind of set yourself up so that you know you're going to then buy a property. But every time you buy a property, you need to go through this process. And essentially, it's made up of 4 levels: foundational level, searching for properties, securing a deal, and then unconditional for the deal. So I think it just helps set the overall stage. So I just want to really cover it off really quick. You need to set up a property strategy of understanding where you are right now, what assets, resources, liabilities, what things have I got here, and where do I want to end up? For Jeff and I, it's $150,000 of passive income, and we're looking to do that in under 10 years. So great. Now, how do we reverse engineer the plat to get there? How do we build that plan? We know where we want to end up. So how do we do it? We know, based on our strategy, that we need to build high growth assets that are going to allow us to get the growth and then sell those assets down to convert that into commercial property. Then it comes down to the property plan. I now know where I need to go. Great. I need to create this next property. So what happens with property strategy? It's exactly like when you look at something in the mirror. Like up close. Like you look at something really close. My hand is crystal clear right now, but everything else is kind of blurry. So you need to get crystal clear on what does this next property need to be, and have a bit of an outline for what the next one needs to be following that. But it's what does this next property need to be to allow me to get into the next one? And that's what the property plan is. You then need to go into suburb selection. You need to then search for your properties. You need to then create a deal flow process to be able to get on and off market, well, get off market deals and on markets as well. You then need to run through stage one, which is due diligence. You need to assess that property. Did it pass or fail? Did it pass your initial checks? No, it failed. Great. Go to the finish, restart all over again. Searching for properties should be there. Someone I think wrote in, what's the difference between stage one and stage two due diligence? What you need to do is quickly, it's not about ruling out what's good for the portfolio, it's ruling out what's shit. So you have a quick and dirty framework of great, understanding price, understanding bushfires, floods, easements, encumbrances, caveats, all of that kind of stuff. Quick and dirty. I can assess a deal in a market that I understand and know in about 30 seconds. So that stage one due diligence is quick. I've got the tools, I've got the platform. It might take you 5 minutes to get started with, but you'll speed up over time. 30 seconds is probably a bit,
takes me 5 minutes, Joe.
Yeah, it's like, that's probably simmer down, Joe. Like, God. We then need to get the property inspected by somebody trusted, or if you're in the area, go do it yourself. Again, stage two due diligence is assessing that video, assessing the walkthrough, understanding the property, doing more due diligence on it, pass or fail. It failed, great, turn around, send that on, start all over again. Level three, secure the deal. We now need to secure the deal. We need to make offers. You've got a agent call masterclass that you need to go through to kind of get that process going. Pretty straightforward. Sign the conditional contracts. Phase three due diligence, which is more around like expert due diligence that allows you to assess the deal fully. So we did that video. We understood where it was at, but then we did a pest and building. We're like, oh man, this really isn't as good as we wanted it to be. We bought it at 530, 540, believing this to be true, but we are now seeing that we need an $8,000 door fixed. Are you kidding me? $8,000 for a door? But what you have to do is call up a doorman and say, hey, Mr. Doorman, how much for a door? And he's going to say, oh, a door like that, probably $8,000. Great. I now have leverage, because if I went to the agent and said that door is going to cost $8,000, no, it's not. I'll get my mate Trevor over there for $500. You're fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. You're not going to get it. So you prepare a case study of why you believe this, why this amount of money that I'm asking off is absolutely nothing compared to the amount of work that I'm going to put in, and I'm going to pull out of the deal because of this.
And then Joe, do you sneakily sometimes, and I've some occasionally use this, instead of saying, okay, yeah, 8K is probably like we don't want to be unreasonable here. Like 8K is what it's going to cost. However, happy to meet you in the middle, pay 4 or 5K. Give us that and we'll take it. We'll sort it out. We'll make it happen. Is that kind of I mean, maybe I'm asking you to give away your secret herbs and spices here, but is that kind of, how do you typically play that? Or does it depend?
You just need to be seen as a reasonable person, right? So that door is $8,000. The air conditioning unit needs to be replaced, right? There was something, the shower needs to be replaced. That's $4,000 or $5,000, right? So I went in there and I'm like, guys, we're in the whole 20 grand. I understand there's some stuff that needs to be done, but we didn't understand there's going to be 20 grand worth of stuff. You need to meet us in the middle and give us 10. And that's how we got 10. So yeah, spot on. You need to be a reasonable human being with this stuff and justify. Every problem has a solution. It just has a cost attached to it. It is unconditional, prepare for settlement, organized tenancy. That's the rest of it. Like, this is the property flywheel that we were talking about here. This is the concept that we're trying to, we're playing around with to see if it kind of helps people. Essentially, as a property investor, we have three components. We have three resources on hand. And as you can see, they're all fully charged. When we're starting out, our portfolio cash and equity is really good. Our portfolio cash flow is great. And our borrowing ability and serviceability is fantastic. So what happens over time though, and what's happening to our portfolio is our portfolio cash flow is starting to take a bit of a hit because we've got such a negative capital portfolio. Our borrowing ability and serviceability is fantastic, but our cash and equity is running a little bit dry as well. So as a property investor, we need to acquire different types of assets to help complement these variables here, right? So you've got three choices as an investor. You have the slow lane, which will get you there, the fast lane, which will definitely help speed up the process. And then there's the Autobahn. I kind of like that. So I like the Autobahn.
Ricky, could you do a meme about Joe and his Autobahn? I think I've got a request. Sorry, Ricky, I shouldn't be.
He's very fast. Why is Joe so fast? Okay, so going back to the variables here, we have foundation, cash flow, and debt diminishes, right? We have the slow lane. Now, one thing to mention about the slow lane, I do not want to poo-poo the slow lane. The Townsville deal that we bought is a bit of a slow lane purchase. It is in a hot market. We don't have to do anything with it. We can set and forget this property. Going forward, the yield's pretty solid. We don't have to do anything, right? So slow lane is the easy route. Fast lane is quite difficult. And it's not difficult. It requires more time, energy, effort, and skill. And then the Autobahn requires real skill, but it gets you a higher return on investment. It gets a higher bang for your buck. So people are like, how do I retire from property investing? Well, you just do a 12-lot subdivision and you do 3 of them and you're retired for the rest of your life. But can you do a 15-lot, 20-lot subdivision? No, you can't.
Do you have the cash and do you have the knowledge? Because if you don't have the cash, yeah, cash is great. But if you don't have the knowledge to do that, you are accepting a heck of a lot of risk, and you may not be understanding the type of risk that you are in accepting that deal. And yeah, sure, you might absolutely knock it out of the park and be retired, but that deal could go horrendously pear-shaped and you could be $1 million in the hole. And what happens then? So you're wiping yourself out on that deal. So it's important to factor in the risk and the skill, which is
100%. So the purpose of showing you guys this is that every portfolio has kind of stages and requires different things at different times. And I just want to break it down simple. This stuff is not complicated. Property investing is not complicated. You have to do the right things at the right time, but it doesn't take too much to wrap your head around. Essentially, there's 3 lanes, super easy, a little bit harder, and quite harder, right? Then we have a foundational portfolio, we have cash cows, and we have debt diminishes. We need to diminish the debt that we've got here. So you've got slow lane, set and forget type of properties. What are the cash cows for the slow lane? Duplexes, unit blocks. What are the debt diminishes? Well, you hold long term. That's it. Like, you will get to your goals in 30 years. If you buy 4 to 6 properties over 30 years, you'll be cash flow positive. You'll be able to keep that, hold on to all of those, and they'll be all right. Fast lane is minor renovations, frozen equity, right? We're freezing our subdivision for Townsville, granny flats, commercial properties. And then we've got debt diminishes. What is that? That's selling at the peak. It's doing a small subdivision. Exactly what we're doing with our Townsville one. We have frozen equity, and we're going to then do a small subdivision. We're going to put a little house on it, and we're going to get much better cash flow. We're going to spend, $350,000, $400,000 on a house. That's then going to be worth $700,000, and it's going to give us I don't know what the rent will be. I'm not worrying. I would
just say, Joe, sell at the peak. Very few people know the exact peak, but it's more about sell when your circumstances mean that there's a potentially a better opportunity elsewhere once you've assessed that. Because it's hard to time that market. It's like somebody was asking, it's about Perth Day. It's like, should I consider selling that? And I was sort of like, well, maybe not, because I don't think it's quite 100% of its peak, but you're very rarely going to time it. So you might go close, but is there a better opportunity to deploy that capital elsewhere? If so, speak to your broker, speak to your professionals. And speaking of that, we haven't done this. Actually, I'm not. We do need to do this disclaimer, but it's not financial advice. We're a bit late in the piece, but general information, read all that information, and speak to your broker, accountant, all those good people.
Supply and demand is the driver of value. We assess locations through I've got 4 fingers set up. 5 factors, right? We look at the suburb over the short term. We look at the fundamentals and the supply and demand of that. We look at the suburb over the long term. We look at the fundamentals and the supply and demand of that. We look at the region over the short term and the fundamentals and the supply and demand. And then we look at the region's long-term fundamentals, supply and demand, and then Australia fundamentals, supply and demand. But you start at the base of the pyramid. Where everyone kind of gets stuck is they're like, oh my gosh, I need to start at Australia. Am I going to buy in Australia? The interest rate is this and this and this and this. And then they're like, okay, what state do I choose? I have to choose a state based on that. No. You start at the base of the pyramid based on the property plan that you've created for yourself. And then you compare the assets in the suburbs because you're not buying a state, you're not buying a suburb, you're buying a property that's on a street. So what you want to do is build your property brief. Let's just say it's a $500 to $550,000 asset that needs a minimum yield requirement of 4.2%. So you go out there and then find all of the suburbs in Australia that have a $450,000 to $500,000 purchase with a 5.2% yield, and then you compare those against each other. So what we're going to talk about is the fundamentals, macros of an area, because we don't have a brief. We're just going to dive deep into an area. Jeff is going to talk to the fundamentals, and I'm going to talk to the data point. So yes, that's just one core point that I wanted to get across to you. It doesn't have to be complicated. We're assessing supply and demand.
What I wanted to say, ask of you, is you said shorter term is more important. What are you what's your mindset or thoughts around that? Like, tell us more about that.
Well, actually, yeah, I said that. Actually, I did say shorter term is more important, but it's not necessarily the most important thing, because it depends on your buyer brief, right? Like, is short term the most important thing for you, or is that long-term capital growth? Like, self-managed super funds is a big thing where people are investing a lot of money into it. They can't access that for the next 20 years. So for them, the question is, I don't care what this property is worth next week, what next year. I don't care what it looks like in 5 years. In fact, I just want to buy an asset, and what is the best asset for the next 10 years? And based on what we do, here is what we're thinking. Here's where it stacks up. So that's what matters to me, because we're not buying an investment property for 5 minutes. We're not buying investment property for a year. We'll even do it for 3 years. Like, if you're buying an investment property for 3 years, you're going to have to buy a hotspot, and short-term capital growth is going to be the most important thing. But what happens after 3 years? Then you're going to taper off on your growth, and then you have to do something else. So yeah, did that answer your question?
No, yeah, it's really important to weigh out what's most important to you. If you're a first-time property investor and you want to grow that portfolio to exit the rat race, leave the job, give the person at the front desk the bird or whatever you want to do. 10 years is a very short time frame. You need to see growth very quickly, unless your income is considerable. We're talking sort of 3, 4, 500K. Then you need to see that growth initially. So that's your priority. Whereas if you're like, okay, you know what, I'm happy to take the slow lane, Autobahn with Joe cruising up 200K down the Autobahn in Europe is not for me. I'm happy to take 20 to 25 years. Then that way you might want to focus on more medium term. So just really, it's kind of a choose your own adventure.